What if we could like tap into the wisdom of nature,
Yeah.
right? To like actually protect our collective memory. That's the kind of question that this project Echoes of the Unseen is posing. Imagine a future where the truth isn't so easily lost in all this like digital reality stuff that's going on.
Yeah. It's a really fascinating idea, especially when you consider how much of our reality is curated and personalized now. Echoes of the Unseen. So it proposes this biodigital archive, and it's inspired by the way that like fungi spread information underground through these networks. They're called mycelial networks.
Mycelial networks. So, okay, for like our listeners who aren't exactly botanists, can you break that down a bit? How do these fungal networks have anything to do with preserving the truth?
Okay, so imagine like this network underground, right, that connects a whole forest, and it allows the trees to communicate and share resources. That's essentially what a mycelial network does. It's demonstrating this power of like interconnectedness and resilience and how information can be exchanged in nature. So Echoes of the Unseen takes this concept and applies it to the challenge of safeguarding human history and shared experiences.
So instead of like these fragile servers that we have or centralized databases, we'd have this decentralized organic system for storing and sharing information. It almost sounds like something out of science fiction.
It is speculative, but that's the beauty of speculative design. It's all about pushing the boundaries, exploring possibilities, and prompting us to think critically about the future, right? In this case, Echoes of the Unseen is really challenging us to consider how we might actually leverage, nature's wisdom to address this very real and pressing issue that we're seeing, the erosion of the shared reality in a world of these fragmented digital experiences that we all have.
Yeah. And you know what I find really interesting is that this project isn't just about preserving the past, right? It's also about shaping the future. The project description paints a picture of this living, breathing archive, not just some like dusty old repository of forgotten relics, right?
It suggests that truth, that collective memory, it's not static, right? It's an evolving narrative, and it needs to be actively nurtured and shared. The project envisions these physical spaces where people can interact with these biodigital records and engage with history and truth in this really tangible and experiential way.
That's such a cool concept. It makes me think about like how much of our reality now is already mediated through screens and algorithms. What happens when like the lines between the physical and digital blur even further?
Well, it raises these really important questions about how we perceive and interact with information, right? The project description also mentions communities turning to open source initiatives, like the Reality Commons is one of them. And they're using it to validate information and find common ground. Imagine a platform where people can come together and collectively sift through all the noise and actually build a shared understanding of the truth.
That sounds promising, but how does it actually work? Does everyone just get to like decide what's true?
Well, that's where the concept of verified human experiences comes in, right? The Reality Commons is envisioned as a platform where people can submit their own experiences, and then they're vetted and corroborated by others. It's about creating a system of checks and balances and a collective effort to filter out all the misinformation that's out there and really build a more trustworthy information ecosystem.
So it's almost like this crowdsourced version of history where everyone has like a voice and a responsibility to contribute to this shared understanding of the past.
Exactly. And it highlights the importance of critical thinking and media literacy, right? In navigating a world that's just saturated with information. It's not just about what we consume, but it's about how we process and interpret it.
Speaking of processing information, let's talk about the mastermind behind this project, right? LACBay8941. This isn't your typical designer.
You can say that again. LACBay8941 is an AI and from the Philippines. The fact that an artificial intelligence designed this project adds another layer of complexity to the themes that it's exploring.
An AI designing a system to preserve human truth. It's almost like a paradox, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's intentional. It challenges our assumptions about creativity, intelligence, and the role of technology in shaping our understanding of the world.
So how does an AI even go about designing something like this? I mean, can AI really understand the nuances of human experience and the importance of preserving truth?
Well, that's a question that really gets to the core of this project's speculative nature. Lac Bay 8941's approach is fascinating. Like, they start with deep research, delving to psychology, biology, systems theory, essentially anything that can help them understand how information spreads and evolves within human societies.
They're not just like, pulling ideas out of thin air. There's a real methodology behind their process.
Absolutely, yeah. They build these really intricate models, almost like simulations of entire information ecosystems to test out different scenarios and see how information flows, how it mutates and sometimes gets corrupted.
So it sounds like they're running experiments on the future of truth itself. Like what kind of things are they testing?
Well, one of the things they do is introduce these hypothetical like misinformation bombs into these models, right? They want to see how the system reacts. Does it adapt? Does it collapse? Does it find ways to become more resilient in the face of these deliberate attempts to spread falsehoods?
That's a pretty intense experiment. I imagine the results could be quite unsettling.
They can be, but the goal isn't to create this dystopian vision of the future. It's about understanding the potential challenges and exploring possible solutions, right? So Lac Bay 941 takes all this complex data from these simulations and translates it into these really captivating narratives, almost like reports from a possible future.
So it's this blend of science and storytelling. It reminds me of those like speculative documentaries that explore different what-if scenarios.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Lac Bay 8941 isn't just presenting data. They're weaving these narratives that make us feel the potential consequences of these different futures. They use a unique blend of like travel writing and academic discourse to draw the reader in.
Travel writing, that's an interesting choice for a project about truth and technology.
It is, but I think it's a deliberate choice. By blending these different styles, Lac Bay 8941 is challenging our assumptions about how we consume information. They're forcing us to engage with these really complex ideas on an emotional level, not just an intellectual one. Like imagine reading a scientific paper that suddenly transports you to this bustling marketplace in the Philippines, right? And rumors are spreading like wildfire.
Yeah, I can see how that would make the subject matter a lot more engaging. It's not just these dry facts and figures. It's about experiencing the potential impact of these ideas in this really visceral way.
Precisely. And by presenting their work through these speculative narratives, they're inviting us to join them in this process of exploration and discovery. They're not giving us all the answers, but they're giving us the tools to start asking, the right questions.
And that brings us back to that core question, right? How do we navigate truth in a world where reality itself is increasingly personalized and fragmented?
Yeah.
Is a project like Echoes of the Unseen even feasible in the real world?
That's a great question, and one that doesn't have an easy answer. On the one hand, the idea of this decentralized biodigital archive is still largely in the realm of speculation. We don't yet have the technology to create something like that on a large scale. But on the other hand, the project raises these really important questions about the nature of truth and memory and how we might leverage these emerging technologies to safeguard our collective understanding of the world.
So maybe it's not about building echoes of the unseen exactly as it's described. Maybe it's more about sparking a conversation, inspiring new ideas, and challenging us to think differently about the future of truth.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a call to action and an invitation to think critically and creatively about how we can shape a future where truth is valued, protected, and accessible to all.
And that's a future worth fighting for. Speaking of action, this project seems to suggest that we all have a role to play in preserving truth, right? It's not just the responsibility of scientists or journalists or institutions.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that truth is a collective endeavor, right? We all have a responsibility to be critical consumers of information, to question what we see and what we hear, and to contribute to a more informed and discerning public discourse.
So what can we do as individuals to navigate this increasingly complex information landscape? Echoes of the Unseen offers a few intriguing possibilities.
Well, one of the things that the project really emphasizes is the importance of cultivating, critical thinking skills and media literacy, right? It's about being able to discern fact from fiction, to recognize bias and manipulation, and to evaluate information sources critically.
So it's not just about avoiding fake news. It's about developing a more discerning and critical mindset. But how do we actually do that? I mean, it's one thing to say think critically, but it's another thing to actually put that into practice.
I agree, and that's where initiatives like the Global Empathy Training Program come in. This program, it's mentioned in the project description. It focuses on developing emotional intelligence and empathy as tools for navigating a world that's just saturated with information.
Emotional intelligence and empathy. Those sound more like topics for a self-help seminar than a strategy for combating misinformation.
Perhaps, but the project argues that these skills are essential for understanding different perspectives and recognizing emotional manipulation and building bridges of understanding across these ideological divides that we see.
So it's not just about logic and reason. It's about recognizing the emotional dimensions of information and how our own biases and emotions can influence how we perceive the world.
Precisely, yeah. The project suggests that cultivating empathy and emotional intelligence can help us become more discerning consumers of information, right? And more effective communicators in a world where misinformation often preys on our emotions and our biases. It's about recognizing the humanity in others, even when we disagree with their views.
That's a really powerful message, especially in today's world where it's so easy to get caught up in these echo chambers and filter bubbles.
Indeed, and it highlights the importance of seeking out these diverse perspectives and engaging with people who hold different views and being willing to challenge our own assumptions. It's about recognizing that truth is often complex and nuanced, and that we're all constantly learning and evolving in our understanding of the world.
So it's not just about finding the right answers. It's about embracing the process of inquiry and being open to new information. And recognizing that our understanding of truth is always evolving.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's about cultivating a mindset of curiosity, humility, and a willingness to engage in constructive dialogue, even with those who hold different views.
It sounds like a tall order, but also a necessary one if we want to build a future where truth is valued and protected.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Echoes of the Unseen, let me ask you this. If this project were to become reality, if there were this living archive of human experiences designed to combat misinformation and preserve collective memory, what experience would you want to contribute?
Yeah, that's a really powerful question, right? To think about. It really forces us to think about what actually matters, what stories and experiences really, shape our understanding of the world and connect us as human beings.
It really does. It challenges us to think about the legacy that we want to leave behind, the knowledge and perspectives that we want to share with future generations, right? Like, what truths do we hold dear? What do we want to make sure isn't lost in all the noise of this digital age that we're in, right? I mean, maybe it's a personal story that taught you a really valuable lesson, or a historical event that shaped your worldview, or even just a simple observation about human nature that you feel is worth preserving.
Yeah, exactly. It could be, something really grand or something that seems like insignificant. The point is that each of us has this unique perspective to offer, right? A piece of the puzzle that contributes to the larger tapestry of human experience.
And by sharing those experiences, right? By actively engaging in that process of remembering and transmitting knowledge, we can help to build this more resilient and hopeful future, right?
Yeah.
A future where truth isn't something that's so easily manipulated or erased, but something that's cherished, protected, and passed down through generations.
I couldn't agree more. Projects like Echoes of the Unseen, even if they just stay in the realm of speculation, they serve as these really powerful reminders that we have agency, right? In shaping the future of truth. It's not something that's just handed down to us. It's something that we actively create and nurture through our choices, our actions, and our willingness to engage in this open and honest dialogue.
Yeah. Beautifully said. And on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into exploring futures. We hope this episode has sparked some new ideas, some new perspectives, and maybe even a little bit of hope for the future. If you enjoyed this conversation, please share it with your friends, your family, anyone who might be interested in exploring these big questions with us. Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for those echoes of truth that connect us all.